Hey everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty. I really hope you've got a drink or a snack with you. I certainly have, because I have got a whopper of a video, because I am bringing close to 200 book recommendations in this video for your Adventurerathon reading prompt. I will endeavour to do this as cleanly and as chaotic free as I can. As always with my videos, there is no guarantee. As you can see, my shelves are looking almost empty. I have so many books. I've got piles over here, over here, over here, over here, everywhere. I've got 3 incredible volunteers who have helped me compile all of these recommendations for you. We have got the amazing Ren from The Reading Ren, Charlotte from Clumsy Charlotte, and we have got Jonah from Words from the Void. And the 3 of them have really helped me compile this list. Anytime I say a book and it was their recommendation, a little icon is going to pop up on screen and you will get their recommendation. Ren, apart from I think 1 book, every single recommendation is queer, unsurprisingly. Jonah, most of his recs are either feature BIPOC, queer or disability rep. He was amazing. And Charlotte has given me recommendations for some of the really difficult prompts that I was really struggling with. And so again, hers feature a mix of rep. Originally, the plan was to give you every single book. I was going to talk through all of the rep and everything, but that was going to be such a mammoth task. It was going to take far too long. You're just unfortunately going to have to find out for yourself. And I'm also not going to give any sort of synopses of any books, because we will be here for a 6-hour video if I do that. The only time that is an exception is when I recommend books from Jonah, because when he submitted the books that he was recommending, this guy was like pro level recommendations. I'll show you a sample of what he was sending me. So this one here, you can see he gave me like a synopsis of his own sort of summary in his own words. He was giving me all the different reps and gave me a list of trigger warnings. I don't unfortunately have time to give you all of that information whenever I use one of his recommendations, but I will definitely give you the synopsis because he was really good at writing those, and definitely the rep that I'm aware of. I'm also going to have timestamps below, so if you are just here for your character and your pathway, obviously skip through to the ones that you're interested in. And if you're still struggling to choose a pathway, then have a drink, sit down, watch, maybe you'll get inspired by all the different books. Or even if you're just in future, you've got another book readathon that you're doing and you're just struggling for prompts, maybe you can save this video for future reference for other readathons you do. I think I've covered everything. We have got a heck of a lot of books to get through. Editing Kirsty. There will be random times in this video where, as I'm talking, random books will just pop up. This is because you would think that having 100 odd books in a recommendations video would be enough, but my brain kept thinking of more. So I just decided that on the video I would just add them in as and when I had time. So if for any reason a book pops up on screen and I've not talked about it in the video, that's because it's just another book that I found for that prompt that fit. So it's just basically extra bonus prompts. So please do be aware that not every book that I recommend in this video is one that actually is verbalised from my mouth. So please be aware of that and keep an eye on the screen if you are looking for a specific prompt for a specific book for a specific prompt. Without further ado, let's get started, and we're going to kick off with the first. I'm going to do it in alphabetical order, so we're kick-starting with our assassins. Starting with tools, and we had Dagger on the cover, and we've got Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. We have Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. Got a little dagger here, and oh, little one here. These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. The Bone Way and The Shadows Between Us. For a key or keyhole, and then if you really couldn't find anything, a lock, we have the Archived, or this one's the compendium, The Dark Vault by V. Schwartz, 10,000 Doors of January, Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland, and A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney, because you can see there's a little key hanging down here. Then we had your skills, so we have books featuring poisoners and poisons. We've got quite a few for this one. So we've got This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, A Magic Steeped in Poison, Judy I. Lim, The Foxglove King, The Lost Apothecary, The Queen's Poisoner, and Poison Study. Then a book you've got your own. Obviously, I can't really give recommendations because that's personal to you. Then it was Clans, Gangs, and Guilds. So we have This Savage Song v. Schwab, Only a Monster by Vanessa Len, The Friend Scheme by Cale Dietrich, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, Midnight's Twins by Holly Race, and Ace of Shades by Amanda Foodie. Your starting quest is to read a book featuring assassins, and you probably didn't have much trouble with this. We have the pretty obvious Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. We have The Love Interest by Cale Dietrich. We have The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks, and we have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And then the final quest of read a book about a corrupt leader or government being overthrown. We have Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, because this is about overcoming a blackmailer, and I thought for those of you that prefer contemporary, this would be a good fit. Seasons of the Storm by Ellie Cosimano, The Once and Future Witches, Scythe, and Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. Your side quests, I Want It, I Got It, obviously personal to you. Procurement, non-reading prompt. Bribe Someone, personal to you. Take a Hostage, so a book with kidnapping or abduction. There's The Forest of Stolen Girls for a more contemporary mystery crime setting. There's the Manhwa Killing Stalking. There's The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. And Anxious People by Frederick Backman, because bank hostage situation counts. And finally we have a good old heist, and we've got to kickstart that with Six of Crows, classic. We have The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp, The Gilded Walls by Rakshani Choksky, and The Last Magician. So those are the assassin prompts. Next up we're on to the Holy Warriors Path, and for this we are kickstarting with the holy items on the cover. And we have Pew by Catherine Lacey. We have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Also by Neil Gaiman we have Good Omens, Marion Lane and the Midnight Murders, and 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. Then was Shield or Armour on the cover. But we've got Traitor's Blade for shield. You can see there's this dude here is holding a shield. So Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. We have The Luminous Dead. I don't have the final cover, but I promise you the actual book cover that I'll impose over this for the Grimm Company has armour on it. Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. They're wearing armour. Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. Don't know why the camera's not focusing lately. And Die Volume 1. I have tried to put some graphic novels in throughout this video. For your skills, we had a medical setting, so hospitals and healers, and we've got Mal Volume 1, that he is a healer. We have Perfect World, which features a disabled character and he spends a bit of time in the hospital, and it does feature quite a bit of hospital and medical talk. And Legendborn by Tracy Dion, one of the main characters in this is a healer. Witchmark by C.L. Polk, which says a doctor teams up with a fae/death angel and uncovers a government conspiracy. Then we have All the Little Moments, and finally The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. The main quest is a book featuring religion. For this we have Daughter of Darkness by Kat and Liz Core, Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, A Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, Overthrowing the Government and Establishing Democracy, Fighting a War and Shooting at Gods. Have The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten, and then we have Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. And then your final quest, read a book about the undead. We have Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. There's the Anita Blake Vampire Mysteries series. And we also have the book called Highway Bodies. For your side quests, we have obviously Cast a Blessing, Complete a Pilgrimage, and Learn Your Scriptures. They're all personal to you or non-reading, so I can't help with those. But Attending a Mass, so read a book from a series of 5 or more books. We have the Demonica series. We have the Fever series by Karen Marie Moaning. There's the Psy Changeling series. I'm always going to plug Nalini Singh. Thea Harrison's Elder Races series, Skullduggery Pleasant that I just mentioned, that series if you want to read a middle grade. And we also have the Relentless series by Karen Lynch. I'm really sorry I also missed out poetry from your skills list. So for poetry, I've got Enough by Kevin Dorman. We have The Path to Kindness, You'd Better Be Lightning, and Walking with Ghosts. And then the final prompt for Holy Warrior is Studying the Forces of Evil, so demons, devils and ghosts. We have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, we have 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot, Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, Deal with the Demon, and again the Demonica series that I can't remember the author's name, but it will be up here. And those are your Holy Warrior prompt suggestions. Our next category is Hunters. Starting off as always with our tools. We had bow on the cover, which drove most of us absolutely insane, but we ended up with quite a good selection. So we've got the Boneless Mercies, which has a little arrow going through here, The Magic of Thieves by C. Greenwood, The Song of Achilles, Burning Roses by S.L. Huang, Outrun the Wind, and Goddess of the Hunt. And then Animal Companion, so animal on the cover. This one is, you know, quite an easy one. I mean, I could have picked out about 50 books, but I have just picked out a few. I have Spellslinger, we have a squirrel cat on the front here. Furthermore, we have a little fox here. The Wolf and the Woodsman, we've got birds. Is it birds? Yeah, we've got birds and we've got a wolf. We've got The Dog Chef by Fiona Gibson, if you're looking for a more adult contemporary. Alice by Christina Henry. Artie of the Wolf Moon. And of course, A Man and His Cat that both Ren and I have read, loved and adore and recommend all the time. So Herb Gathering, which remember is a book about plants, and it has to be that the book is about plants, not a book that features plants on the cover. I mean, if it's a book about plants and has plants on the cover, that counts, but you know, the book has to actually feature plants. Either it's a non-fiction about them, or it's a fiction where it's like a magic system, or it's a plant shop. I'll explain. We have House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. We have This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, Silver in the Wood, Botanical Folk Tales of Britain and Ireland if you want a short non-fiction, The Island of Missing Trees, and The Winter Garden by Heidi Swain, which is set on a country estate where her job is to make a garden for winter. So literally all about plants, and even has references to plant books in here. So yay! Lore is a local legend. Obviously, I don't know any legends for a lot of places, and I wasn't going to recommend stuff, but then I realised I had 4 books on hand for one particular legend in the UK, and that is King Arthur, which is weird because I've never really been interested. But I have Waking the Witch by Rachel Birch, Legend Born by Tracy Dion, Once and Future by Kieran Gillen, and Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. Survival I can't help with because that's somewhere you've never been. I don't know where you have and haven't been. Starting Quest, a book featuring the magical creature you wish to pursue. Again, I don't know what creature you wish to pursue. There are a billion mythical creatures out there. My tastes for fantasy tend to be towards sort of politics and magic systems rather than mythical creatures. So I decided I would let you guys work that out. And then if there is one that you're struggling with, like if you decided you do want to pick a mythical creature and you're struggling, just let me know. And for your final quest, read a book over 600 pages. The only ones that I have on my shelf, I had Innocent Mage. Everything else tends to be later on in the series, or was Priory of the Orange Tree. And yeah, so those are the only 2 that I'm going to suggest as those ones. But we have Innocent Mage by Karen Miller and Priory of the Orange Tree. Your side quests, go exploring, learn to hunt and track, and don't eat that, or can you? I can't help you with. But Gathering Pelts for Winter, so read a book with claws, antlers or fur on the cover. Lumberjanes Volume 1 has antlers and fur. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, which obviously has antlers. And we have Here There Are Monsters. As you can see, she's holding a skull with antlers. And then finally, I had Red Hood by a person. I'm doing really great at remembering authors' names, and I wrote no authors' names down when I made these notes, so I am doing fantastic at this. And then the final for Hunter is the mountain, desert or forest setting. So for mountain, I've got The Bright and the Pale by Jessica Robinkowski and The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. For desert, I think this one's the desert. He didn't specify exactly, but I am fairly certain that I am correct. We have Blacking by Ed MacDonald, and it's a grim dark fantasy where normal people have to fight the equivalent of gods, very Mad Max. We also have We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal and The Last Namsara by Kristin Cicciarelli, I believe, if I remember rightly. And then for forest setting, I've got Ayana Gray's Beasts of Prey, we've got In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, and we also have both Uprooted by Naomi Novik and For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. So those are all of the recommendations that I have for you hunters, so good luck with your tracking. Moving on to Mage, and for our skills, we have Wand, which is a magic item on the cover. And starting this with Poison Study by Maria Schneider, because we have little potion bottles on the bottom, which counts. We have Howl's Moving Castle, which has quite a few things. Marion Lane and the Midnight Hour has a couple of bits and pieces on there. I'm going to put my hair up because I'm starting to get really, really hot. The Witch Boy, and then Transmogrify, which is 14 fantastical tales of trans magic, and we have a broomstick there sitting on a little broom. So yeah. Oh, and Now She Is Witch by Kirsty Logan. Then it was Book on the Cover, and there were quite a few again for this that I could have picked, but we have the Meet Cute Club, we have The Magic Fish, he's holding a book. Also Poison Study, I realise, has a book. There's The Last Library by Freya Sampson, The Last Spell Breather. I love this cover, how cute is that? The Bromance Book Club if you're looking for something more contemporary, and some copies of the Midnight Library by Matt Haig have it, some don't, but I will allow any copy you have of it because where some do. So the Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Moving on to your skills, Alchemy, books with 2 or more genres. My first pick and my first thought that I had for this was Black Butler, which is a manga series, because this is a historical fantasy, dark, it's horror, supernatural, it's got many, many, many things blended together, and it has hints of comedy in there as well on occasion. We have The Forest of Stolen Girls, which is a contemporary mystery, murder, thriller blend. We have A Dowry of Blood. I don't know what the genres are, I forgot to clarify that. Jonah has recommended The Last Smile in Sunder City, which is a fantasy noir set in a world where magic has just disappeared and now the world has to live with it. Then we have Evocation, so a book with an element in the title. We have House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Freshwater. As I'm talking now, I will pop some more up that I find. I will do some research in editing and I'll pop some more up. But the last 2 that I have here in front of me, I have With Fire in Their Blood by Kat Delacourt and Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. And then finally we have Scrying, which is a book set in the future, but it has to be Earth's future. So we have The Psy Changeling by Nalini Singh, which is set approximately in 2075. We have The Stranded by Sarah Daniels, which is set in 2094, and it doesn't state exactly when, but Dawn by Octavia E. Butler is set on Earth in an indeterminate time, hundreds of years in the future. And then there's also The Handmaid's Tale, which even though it's now technically, the setting is our past, when it was written it was set in a dystopian future, because 2004 was 20 years ahead of when it was written, so that I count. And we also have So Happy for You, which was Charlotte's pick, and that is also a dystopian future. It's not determined what the exact timeline is, but it is Earth, it is dystopian, and it is a future, so it counts. Starting Quest, read a book featuring magic. I've tried to pick out a few though that I think have got quite unique and interesting magic systems, kicking off with Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. I really like the magic system in this. Then we have The Conductors by Nicole Glover, The Merciful Crow, and I've also been enjoying the variety of magic that we've been getting in Transmogrify. And then your final quest was a 2023 debut, Straight Expectations by Callum McSwiggan. We have Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? This was Charlotte's recommendation. We've got Girls Like Girls by Hayley Kiyoko, and one that I have read and loved, which is Wayward by Amelia Hart. And again, as I'm talking now, I will pop up any more that I find, because there are a few others, but again, pre-recording this video, my brain forgot to double check. Side quests. Reading a high fantasy. Pretty much any fantasy set in another world is considered a high fantasy, but we have the Mistborn series, we have Graceling by Kristen Shaw, there's The Innocent Mage by Karen Miller, not Karen Chance, Grim Company, Luke Skull, Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell, and Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. Study the Stars, a book set in space. And surprisingly for a girl who doesn't read sci-fi and doesn't really like books set in space, I had quite the stack. But we have The Darkness Outside Us, Red Rising set on Mars, Cinder, which is set between the moon and Earth, set in like a far distant future, Saga, which is set way out in space, The Gravity of Us, which is set on Earth, but the parents of the lads are both astronauts, so I thought if you want more of like a contemporary teen romance, then it's not set in space, but it features space-ish themes. And good old Gideon the Ninth. There are a lot of people, lesbian necromancers in space. We also have the Wren's pick, which is The Disasters. Coming up, we then have Light and Dark Academia. My understanding of Light Academia is that many classics fall under this. It's generally set more of like a historical setting, and it tends to be dealing with things that are going on in that period and deal with issues and events that are happening in that time period. So for example, Little Women, Circe, The Song of Achilles, these all count towards Light Academia. And then Dark Academia, we've just got two that I know of that people talk about a lot. Babel or Babel, however you pronounce it. And If We Were Villains by ML Rio. And then finally, A Tender Magical Academy, a school setting. You Asked for Perfect, Heartstopper. And on the trend of Alice Oseman, we also have Loveless, which is a university setting if you don't quite want to be reading a high school setting. Also, if you prefer a university setting, although the main character is only 16, but the rest of the characters are all university age, we have Legendborn, which is obviously, like I said, university setting. And we also have My Hero Academia, where it's literally a school that trains heroes. And then finally, Potion Brewing, obviously, non-reading prompt. I can't help you with that. And that's it for the mages. Okay, now it is time for the merchants to take their stand. And if you have skipped ahead to this part and are suddenly wondering why I'm very red in the face and my hair is now up, I am now extremely hot and flustered. And yeah, I can't open the window or put the fan on because the noise will just be too much, so I apologise for the messy state that I'm in, and welcome to the channel. So, for the... Did I just say merchant? Yes, we are on merchant. So for the merchant path, first of all, we had bookkeeping, which was coins on the cover. This one was extraordinarily difficult. Even with 3 people looking, I found one book. There are books out there, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel... A lot of them tended to fall into the very dark, smut romance, and that's not my thing, and I'm not comfortable really promoting those sort of books on the channel until I've had a chance to read them myself. So I then expanded it a little bit when I did the announcement video to say that you could also expand it to books that sort of show wealth, so like jewels and things that just express having a lot of coin. The book that I found that did have coins was The Hobbit, because, you know, Smaug is lying on a pile of gold. And then I also picked out The Wrath and the Dawn because she's wearing this sort of fancy jewellery, and this to me expresses wealth and riches, which kind of links to coins. So I've allowed that. But yeah, that one was really, really difficult, and I apologise and I'm sorry. Then was Shop on the cover for Caravan, and we have Boys Run the Riot because this has a Tokyo scene and obviously that's got shops. The No Show by Beth O'Leary, which it doesn't have a shop front, which was the ideal, but like I said, if you can't find a shop front, and you can find a shop interior, and this obviously has a little cafe interior. Charlotte's pick was The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley. I have read this book, I love this book, and yet I couldn't remember the author's name. And then finally we have Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, because this little building right here is in fact a business as well as a house. For your skills, first of all, we had a book that features baking and bakery, or a bakery. For this, we've got The Confectioner's Guild by Claire Luana. There's a pretty obvious one, which is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Bloom, which is a graphic novel set in a bakery. And the remaking of Corvin Whale. General goods, read a non-fiction. It's hard to really give recommendations because obviously you know your reading tastes for non-fiction, but there's one that both Ren and myself recommend, which is Queer Power, and if it's still on offer on Amazon, it's only like £2 at the moment for UK people. We have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and then we also have from Ren, Life on the Spectrum, which is a graphic novel that looks at different people's views on what it's like to live on the autistic spectrum and how we fight for our lives. For Jewelcraft, it was to read a shiny book. I've just got the standard editions that I think look really nice and shiny. We have Dark Rise by C.S. Picat, lots of gold gilding there. We have 2 books by Marissa Meyer. We have Renegades, which has got some nice red, shiny holographic film. Gilded by Marissa Meyer. You can see the shine on that. It's so pretty. Circus of Wonders, if you prefer a more historical book. I think that one's very, very mirrory. And the Midnight's Twins trilogy by Holly Race. All 3 of these books super duper shiny, different colours. So this one's got more of a coppery colour to it, this one's more gold, and then this one's more silver. And there's also Ink by Alice Broadway, which I think is the shiniest cover on any book I have ever experienced. That thing was just blindingly shiny. And then Ren's picks are Pet by Akweke Emezi and The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, I think. Starting Quest, read a book featuring your dream job. Obviously that is based on you, so for me it'd be anything that features writers and librarians, whether that be in the real world or fantasy world. So anything in that line I would be reading. Well, obviously it's your personal tastes. And then Final Quest, read a book set in a cafe or a shop. There are a few. We have The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley. We have Chef's Kiss, which is a really sweet little graphic novel. Cafe Con Lychee, if you like a more contemporary YA romance. Again, we have Legends and Lattes, and we also have Act Your Age Eve Brown, because that is set in a little B&B. For your side quests, for the first in the series, there are so many books that are the first in the series. I think you're big enough to sort that out for yourself. Hopefully you're big enough to sort that one out for yourselves. Then Training Abroad, I picked books for one side of this, forgot to pick books for the second side, so I've picked out books and got recommendations for Oceania, forgot to sort out for Africa, because I forgot that actually quite a few of you probably are based in Australia in particular and might need help getting books in Africa. Only book I know that I own that is set in Africa is Homegoing by Yag Yassi, which obviously if you can read it, it's amazing. With the help of Ren, I now have a collection of books for books set in Oceania. So we have The Light Between Oceans, we have Wyler, we've got The Boy from the Mish, The Shark Caller, which is the only non-queer prompt that they gave me, and then we've got Upside Down. Learn your craft, a mentor type character. From Jonah, we have Nocturna by Maya Matanye. A thief and a prince battle the darkest of magics, gives off Major a dark shade of magic vibes. And then Battle Mage by Peter A. Flannery. Mages and their dragons fight demons to save the world. We have My Hero Academia, Skullduggery Pleasant, and then Ace of Shades, Levi becomes a bit of a mentor to N. And then finally, Promote Your Business, read a book that you saw advertised and that was advertised anywhere. Basically anything by, off the top of my head, there's Colleen Hoover I see everywhere, I Can't Get Away From Her, Sarah J Maas. Any book that you've seen that's been promoted counts. And that is it for the merchants. Up next we have possibly both the easiest and hardest path to come up with books for, because it was the easiest in that there were so many books. Like seriously, by far this has the most books. And I'm not biased because this is also the path that I'm choosing. But it was also the hardest because there are so many books and so many of them fit. I think there was like 2 books that can fit into something like 5 or 6 of the categories. And I'm trying to only fit them into 1 or 2. So there may be quite a lot of repetition in this one. I am sorry. Starting off with Sword on the cover. We're going to start off with Ren's pick, which is Gear Breakers, because she is holding a sword. Mao, if you're more into a graphic novel or might prefer a historical setting, this one's for you because this is like more samurai sword. Fence, if you're more into sports stuff and graphic novels. Then we have Realmbreaker, All Our Hidden Gifts, which is a contemporary LGBT school setting type book. We have the swords going through the heart. And then finally, Bloodmarked, so not Legendborn this time, but Bloodmarked, which is the second book. They are both holding swords of varying types, and I've deliberately chosen this one because this is on my TBR and I just wanted to be like, read it. Ship, which is a ship or a boat on the cover. We have Fable by Adrienne Young. We have Peter Darling, Truth Witch by Susan Dennard, The Ice Sea Pirates if you would like a middle grade, The Stranded by Sarah Daniels. We can see it's got a little cruise ship. And we have Max and the Spice Thieves, which is another middle grade piratey adventure type story. For your skills, sailing, so books that are set at sea. Again, we have The Stranded by Sarah Daniels, The Isles of Storm and Sorrow, Book 1, Viper, To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, Fable, we also spend a lot of time on the ocean, Daughter of the Pirate King spends a lot of time at sea, In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens, and finally, The Beholder by Anna Bright. Navigation, feature travel. Most of the books set at sea also feature travel, but if you're looking for something a little bit different, we have a selection for you. Travelling through different continents and across the desert in The Alchemist. We have Travelling to Space in The Darkness Outside Us. Going on Holiday in The Spanish Love Deception. Travelling Between Worlds in A Dark Shade of Magic. Travelling Through a Railway System in One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. And then finally we have It's Been a Pleasure, Nonnie Blake. And then for dueling, we have a book that features a tournament. And like I said, if you can't find a book that features a tournament, I will accept a competition. And for this, I have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. I've been trying to avoid sequels, but book 2, A Gathering of Shadows for the Dark Shades of Magic series, that was Charlotte's pick, and that is a tournament, the Essentach. We have The Beckoning Shadow by Catherine Blair. A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. We have Be Dazzled, which was Ren's pick. We have The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas, and then we have the ever classic The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. A book featuring pirates. Again, a lot of what I've already mentioned. We have Fable. We have The Daughter of the Pirate King. We have Marauder, which features space pirates. We have Raven the Pirate Princess, which is a graphic novel. We have God of Neverland. And then finally we have The Ice Sea Pirates by Frida Nelson. And then finally read a book about a great treasure or fortune, and like I said, an inheritance counts. So we have The Gilded Wolves by Rukshani Chuksky. We have The Inheritance Games. There's Gilded by Marissa Meyer. There's Gentlemen Never Keep Score, which is Ren's pick. The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This is a bank robbery, so it's about a fortune. And then we have The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, which was Jonah's pick. For your side quest, Search for Buried Treasure, a book with a map. I have All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody. This Vicious Grace, which for me is the pinnacle of maps in books and is the golden standard, because not only do we get a map of the realm, we get a map of the city. Butterfly Assassin by Finn Longman, which is kind of like a sci-fi dystopia type urban setting. Has a map of the city. And then Into the Crooked Place by Alexandra Christo also has a really cool map of the city. Next up, spend time ashore reading some smut. We have the Plated Prisoner series. Is anyone surprised that I'm going to recommend that? We also have Anything by Nalini Singh. Anyone also surprised that I'm going to recommend that? Delilah Green Doesn't Care. It's not like super heavy on the smut, but the scenes that are in here are done really, really well. I don't personally like how she writes it, but I know a lot of people absolutely love Talia Hibbert's scenes, so all of the Brown Sisters trilogy. And Ren's pick is Slick by Juniper Jordan. Then we had Birds on the Cover, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, which now I will say I recommend because I've read it and now enjoy it. We have Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and also by Elizabeth Lim. Spin the Dawn also has birds, it has the wings on the cover. Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. And then finally, Escape Capture. So read a book where your characters are on the run or fleeing from something. There are various ones that we have. We have This Vicious Grace, where she is on the run from being used as a sacrifice. Wayward by Amelia Hart, she fleeing an abusive... One of the main storylines in this is fleeing an abusive partner and escaping that. Ren's pick is Burn It All Down by Nicholas D. Demizio. Dark Rise by C.S. Pecan. And then we have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. So that is it for the pirate pathway. And last but certainly not least, we have our sovereigns. Again, if you have skipped to this part and all of a sudden you saw me composed at the start and now I'm just a hot mess, it's because I am literally a hot, sweaty mess because this video has gone on for so long. It's taken me like 2 hours to film this and I am very hot and very right now. Crown on the cover. One that both Ren and I came up with at the same time. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Three Dark Crowns, Kendara Blake. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Felix Ever After, because he's wearing a crown of flowers. See what I did there? Ren also said Princess Ever After. And then Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. For Throne or Seat on the cover, as I said, ideally Throne, but then we realised how difficult that was going to be, so we expanded it to Seat. And for this, I did find a couple with Throne. There's Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, which is like a Nightmare Before Christmas Sally story. From Jonah, there's Neon Gods by Katie Roberts, so Hades and Persephone, but make it a kinky mafia romance. Yes, the throne is more like a comfy leather armchair, but in the book it's called a throne. And then Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, overthrowing the government and establishing democracy, fighting a war and shooting at gods. I'm biased for this one because it's one of my favourite books of all time. So if that's not a sparkling recommendation, I don't know what is. There's The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan, and Queer Principles by Kit Webb. For public speaking, so radio or TV, we have Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. Kitty in the Midnight Hour, it's a talk show for the supernatural creatures. Ren's pick is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. The last book is The X Talk. Delegation, I can't help you with. Random selection, you're on your own with that one. And then for lawmaking, which is lawyers and law enforcement, we have Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. One of the main characters is, I've been told, a lawyer. The Extraordinaries by TJ Clune. Anxious People, one of the main characters by Frederick Bateman. One of the main characters in that is a law enforcement officer. I think there's two of them that it focuses on. They're both police officers. Guilty Pleasures by Anita Blake. She is part of the police department. The Hate You Give, one of the characters that works with Star quite a lot is a lawyer, and there's quite a lot of law talk. And then for those of you who like manga and are looking for sort of like more manga and graphic novels, there is the manga and anime series Ace Attorney, where that's all about lawyers and law representation. Starting Quest, read a book featuring royalty. Thorn by Instar Kanani. Everlast features royalty. Shadows on the Moon, her task is to try and kill the prince. Captive Prince speaks for itself. Gwen and Art are not in love. This is Gwen and Arthur from the King Arthur tale, so definitely royalty. Woven in Moonlight. And then for the contemporary crowd, I've got You Should See Me in a Crown. We've also got Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And then Ren's pick was Playing the Palace. And then the final quest is Coronation Day, so book that features a coronation or a new royal. First one I'm going to say is You Should See Me in a Crown. Obviously this is about crowning a prom queen, so... A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. These Hollow Vows. The Cruel Prince includes a coronation. A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Covert. And then Wistress by Nadine Brandis. And then finally for your side quests, An inspiring read, I haven't picked out for that because again, I feel like that one's going to be subjective to what you think is inspiring. Themes of conflict that feature heavily throughout the book. The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Basically any book with like love to hate and enemies to lovers. Ren's pick, we have The Song of Achilles, The Henna Wars, which is somewhere. We have Daniel Polanski, Those Above, and the sequel Those Below. And then we have the Fever series by Karen Marie Moaning. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes I'm going to recommend as well. We have the Lunar Chronicles. Next up we have Get to Know Your Subjects, autobiography, memoir, biography. First of those is Persepolis. Ren's recommendations are Genderqueer and As Nature Made Him. I've also got This Much Is True on my shelves that I've only read 5 pages of, but I giggled about 7 times. And then there's the one that everyone was going on about last year, I'm Glad My Mum Died. And then final category for Sovereign and the final category for this video, and this video is going to be humongous, is Find Your Royal Spouse, so books featuring a wedding. We have Fortuna Sworn by K.L. Sutton. Spanish Love Deception features the wedding of her best friend. Diale for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sotonto. Charlotte from Clumsy Charlotte recommends So Happy For You. Ren recommends The Husband Gambit by L.A. What have I written there? By L.A. Witt. There's also The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It might not feature a wedding in the actual book itself, but talking about 7 husbands, that's marriages, which links to weddings, so I'm counting it. And also A Deal with the Elf King starts with a wedding and starts with them getting married. So there you have it. I don't even want to know how many books that was. I now have no voice. I am hot, I'm flustered. This video is at least an hour and a half long, and I've got to try and get it down to under an hour. Anyway, I really hope that even if you didn't get recommendations for every single category you might have been stuck on, I hope you at least got a recommendation for something that you might have been struggling with, or have got inspiration to maybe even swap out some books that maybe you hadn't thought of, or maybe you've just seen a few books that you're now considering adding to your TBR, in which case I apologise. I am an enabler, it's in my nature. Anyway, let me know in the comments below, A, what path you're doing, B, if this video has been of any help to you, C, most importantly, if you are still stuck on any of your prompts, please do let everybody know and we will all do our best to help you out to try and find you something. So let us know what prompt you're stuck on, and also give us an idea of the kind of books you do enjoy reading so we can try and give you the best recommendation possible. Don't forget to check us out over on Instagram and Twitter, because I've got socials there. I'll also be posting the schedule of all of the events. I'm just waiting for my work rota to come through so I know exactly when I can host things. But yeah, I'm really excited. I hope you guys are really excited. I can't wait for this readathon to start. I hope you're good. I hope you're staying safe. I'm going to go die now, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!